What is up, conscious monkeys? Today is March 16th, but I'm sure you're listening to this at least after March 17th. What's up? How'd everyone have a good week? I hope so. It's been an interesting week. I don't have this written down, but I noticed that over the past week, like, there were so many instances where just like letting go was so powerful. Things like, if I'm looking for a mask or if I'm looking for keys or if, what was another example? I'm looking for a certain ingredient that I need to put in a food, but it just wasn't appearing. And it was like, you find yourself in this place of almost frustration where you're like, I need it. Where is it? I know this is where I put it. I know where this is where it was. And just that instant of letting go and just being like, all right, well, it must not just be for me right now, or I just don't need it right now, was huge. It was so powerful. And the things were just appearing right after I was letting them go. So I don't know if that's anything that you've noticed in your last week, but it's something that I noticed very, very strong where, it's just like, you don't need it right now. It's not meant for you at this moment. You're going to feel like you're pushing against the grain if you keep searching for this item. So see if that happens over the past week or even this next week coming up where, you feel like you need something and that it's something that you have to have. Just let go, So that was something that I noticed over the past week. I'm not sure anyone else did. But speaking of letting go, and this is actually a really terrible transition, but I am going to Egypt on Saturday. So the next time that you hear my voice and the recording comes through, I will be recording from Israel. That's the first stop on the ticket is we're going to Israel. That's the first stop in the itinerary is go to Israel, hang out in Jerusalem for a bit. And then, so I'll probably be recording in Jerusalem. That's interesting. Whew. So what we got recordings. We'll have recordings now in 3 different countries. We had Brazil, we have America, and then so we're really nailing that traveling aspect of it. Hell yeah. Just for you guys, right? So that'll unfold as the week progresses. I'll lay out the quick itinerary, which is we are going to land in Tel Aviv. We're going to drive to Jerusalem. We'll then go from Jerusalem back to Tel Aviv down to a lot into Jordan to see the Temple of Petra. We'll then go from Petra back to a lot. And I'm realizing right now this might not be good radio. But then we go let's power through it. Then going from a lot back to Tel Aviv, flying to Cairo. We have a layover in Athens. So, cross off another, I guess, country, although I have been to Greece before. Regardless. We're then in Cairo for a week. Then going to go down to, is it Luxor? No, Aswan. Take a cruise from Aswan up to Luxor, chill in Luxor for a few days, go back to Cairo for a few days, and then head back to Pittsburgh. So it's wild. I know that was a lot. I'll definitely have to, excuse me. I'll definitely be keeping you guys up to date with it as we're, unfolding it, and I'll give you all the juicy updates of what's happening, what I'm experiencing. I actually just had a dream last night that was telling me that basically saying, hey, like you're going to get so many downloads, spiritual downloads, let's call them, as you're, going on this trip. So yeah, that's something that I'm actually really, really excited for. And I found it fascinating that it actually came through in a dream last night. I guess it's just divine timing to relay that information to you guys, divine timing for me to experience it myself. Yeah. And so the next note I actually have here is episode 28, which was the last one. Someone recommended that I brought back on someone from earlier in the podcast. So I decided to reach out to them. They were so kind to come back on. And so I just wanted to take a moment to say, hey, like if there was someone that you loved on the episode, like we had an episode and you were like, damn, that was sick, I didn't want it to end, let me know. I'll bring them back on. I think this is the time to do it. This is the time before, all this explodes and we get so many people listening and so many people wanting to come on the podcast that I don't have time to listen to you guys. But I don't know. Maybe that's an excuse. Yeah, that feels like an excuse. I'm always going to be listening to you guys. Just let me know who you want. I got you. I'll take care of it. But speaking of episode 28, something that comes up in it is from the Netflix. We talk about the Netflix episode called Nosedive. And in this Netflix episode, I'll prevent any spoilers, but the core concept is that we've implemented a social credit system. And basically what this is like, we all get rated on a scale of 1 to 5. And every interaction you have with anybody in the entire world gets rated on this scale of 1 to 5. And I just find it so fascinating. It's like really interesting. It's almost like a credit score, but oh, yeah, I guess it's called social credit system. But it's just for like social interactions. Like, it's a way for people to be like, are you a good person? And scary enough, this is something that has actually been implemented in China starting in 2014, where they actually have people watching other people to influence their credit score. And so I find it, people would say this is 1984, which, fair enough. And I actually disclosed that I have yet to read 1984, though I do know all the core concepts, which I don't know, makes me feel a little bit of a fraud, but I have downloaded it. It's on the next to listen to. I actually think I'm going to probably start listening to it today. We'll see. Regardless, I want to get into like the metaphysical aspect of it. The metaphysical aspect in my mind is it's humans trying to play God. Like we're trying to demystify karma. It's like, I believe, our bid for control with karma. It's us trying to say like, we want to find a way to quantize karma. We want to be able to like see it instantaneously, which I find so interesting because this is something that I've seen with technology throughout. Like this is the emergent. I don't know. I'm trying to sound smart. I see this as the ability or grasp for humans wanting to use technology to replace like our intuition, our social structures. I saw this with like chip implants. I remember, they were like, oh, we're going to have all these chip implants, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, I'll never get a chip implant. And then I caught myself and I was like, well, maybe I would get a chip implant if it told me like how many calories I needed to eat throughout the day, or how many more carbs I needed to eat, or how many more grams of protein to get my optimal health. And I realized, oh shit, like that's where my line was. And then I came to a realization that we can just rely on our intuition for what we should be putting into our body. And so, yeah, so this sent me down a whole rabbit hole thinking about the idea that we're trying to use technology to replace intuition and the universal laws that govern this universe, like the law of karma. Like, for instance, let's take it to an extreme. Things like Hitler or things like Jeffrey Epstein, the dude who was a terrible guy, sexually assaulted hundreds of young girls. Terrible. I believe, and there's evidence of this if you read stuff like Michael Noon's books, like Journey of Souls, and just any book that revolves around how there's the way the afterlife works through hypnosis. Yeah, I'm not going to get too in depth with it about it. But essentially what I believe is that someone like Jeffrey Epstein, he's going to, when he died, his soul started transforming into, the afterlife. And they were like, dude, like, he probably looked back on his life and he was like, I fucked up. He probably was like, holy shit, like, what did I do, kind of thing. Now, what's going to happen is that I believe his soul now needs to learn what it means to essentially be a rape victim. And so there's going to be an incarnation of his soul that needs to go through the process of experiencing that trauma for himself as a young girl. I'm sure that's something that, is really fascinating. Well, I'm sure that's something that will happen. And so for anybody who thinks that he got out easy by just killing himself with regards to this whole thing, I don't believe that's really the case. I believe that, well, I guess there's also a conversation of whether or not he actually killed himself, but we can get back to that at another point. I'm all for that conspiracy, I guess he didn't, but yeah, so I probably really shouldn't be saying that he did. Regardless, getting off topic, he definitely did not kill himself. Regardless, I'm getting off topic. The whole point is that there's a universal law of karma. Like whatever you want to believe in, I just know that that's a thing. So I started going down this whole rabbit hole of technology replacing our intuition, the universal laws of the universe. And I was like, oh shit, like this is something that really energizes me and I find interesting. So I think that this is actually going to be a whole book. And so I was like, fuck, like this is going to be my first book. So I have no plans for this. I have no date. Literally, this thought just came to me yesterday. I've never written a book before. I've never thought about it. I have thought. I lied. I have thought about it. I actually have written down that I want to write a best-selling book. This is me calling my shot, and I've written that down in my journal before. But this is it. I think this is the book idea. So the core concept of the book is that we're trying to create and use technology to create a third density representation of universal laws like intuition and karma. And I think that this has a propensity for error because we are imperfect. Humans are imperfect. And really the universal system, I don't know if it's, I guess it's as perfect as it can be. And this comes back to how do you define perfection and imperfection. And that's a whole topic that I will be covering in the book. So I guess this is my announcement that I have plans to now write a book. I have the idea. It came to me. Yeah, so I don't know when I'm going to write it. I don't know how I'm going to write it. I'm going to leave all that to the intuition of the universe. But this is me, I guess, partially calling my shot, but also telling the universe, hey, I'm ready. Let's write this book. Let me know what I need to do, how I need to do it, and I'm here to listen. I'll be your medium for putting this information out into the world. Yeah, that's cool to say. All right, guys. Well, aspiring best-selling author Clayton signing off for this podcast. That's cool. So yeah, other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. The next episode, maybe I should make a note that the next episode of episode 27 is a difficult one. Be very conscious of your energy whenever you listen to it. It's we go to a dark place with it. For better or worse, we go to a dark place. So I would say good check your energy when you're listening to it. It can be very triggering, and I understand that. There's a lot of energy in it. So with that being said, be careful, I guess, when you're listening to episode 27. And I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for being listeners. And other than that, yeah, have a great week. Let's keep growing together.